Good morning. Good morning. How's everyone feeling? Hey, okay. All right. Good morning. My name is Maggie Brown Peoples, and I am the 2024 through 2026 Romare Bearden Graduate Museum Fellow at the St. Louis Art Museum. I would like to welcome you to If It Wasn't for the Women, The Art of Living, supported by the Mary Strauss Women in the Arts Endowment. I want to thank our Chief Diversity Officer, Renee Bromell Franklin, for her supervision and guidance as a Romare Bearden Fellow, and Min Jung Kim, the Barbara B. Taylor Director, for her leadership at the St. Louis Art Museum. A year ago, on this day, I interviewed for this opportunity. So it is a pleasure to be here before you all, joining the legacy of Romare Bearden Fellows. Thank you, Justice Henderson, the 2023 through 2025 Romare Bearden Graduate Museum Fellow, and Charlie Farrell, the previous 2022 through 2024 Romare Bearden Graduate Museum Fellow. I am today's moderator for this joyous occasion celebrating women artists. Please join me in welcoming Sydney Oreolua, Glenisha, and Christine Espinal. The Art of Living emerged from my focus on how artists interpret living spaces, both formative and intentional, their collaborative art-making processes, and the deep care they bring to their practice. I'm going to highlight examples and provide interpretation in the St. Louis Art Museum's collection from what I mean by that, and guide us through in what we can engage with within this space. Following this, we will hear from our lovely panelists about their practices. We will start with Carrie Mae Weems, an African-American woman photographer, filmmaker, and all-around amazing artist, one of my faves. I chose this artwork, Untitled Kitchen Table Series, because when you look at this photograph, you feel something. The lack of color draws you in, but there's that glow above, from light offering warmth, embrace, and spotlighting a scene of care. In this series, she photographed herself every single day, creating a fictional yet deeply familiar world. The kitchen table becomes more than furniture. It becomes a stage for conversation, reflection, and confrontation. A kitchen table where it belongs to you, a family member, a friend, holds within it the rhythms of daily life. It is symbolic not only in function and purpose, but in its natural connection to our humanity. Carrie Mae Weems was one of the first artists whose work made me feel seen. Her photographs don't just depict, they ask you to feel, to remember, to associate, to locate yourself within the frame. That in itself is a profound and rare gift to create something that is a universal language, proving that the art of living is in many ways the art of seeing and being seen. Next, we have Khalif Tahir Thompson, Suzanne. I've recently grown to know more deeply through my fellowship. He is not just an artist, but a storyteller and an archivist. Thompson's practice is deeply rooted in personal history, incorporating the family archive, and a way of honoring those who came before. But it's more than just remembrance. It's an act of continuation, a weaving of past and present through mixed media. The art extends beyond family to depict friends, loved ones, and even public figures, creating layered narratives of intimacy and collective memory. The painting pictured is titled Suzanne. So it's something mesmerizing about the way that the sitter is reclining on a couch with a relaxed posture, and the presence is undeniable. The elements surrounding her are bathed in warm, plush colors that bring the scene into comfort and contemplation. It's a quiet moment, mundane in its simplicity, yet it carries a weight that makes it feel both deeply familiar and strangely distant. We only receive a fragment of this scene, What lies beyond the edges of the canvas? What moments came before and followed this one? The use of mixed media mirrors this layered sense of time and experience, capturing the way life unfolds, how it is both fleeting and full, textured with memory, presence, and possibility. Wendy Red Star, a Crow Native American artist, brings forth perspective in her work. Maroon Red's house on chartreuse background. This photographic print represents a cutout picture of a reservation home set against a rich satin backdrop, immediately drawing attention not only to the subject, but to the interplay of color and symbolism. The colors come together are not just aesthetic choices, they carry meaning, nodding to the homes that make up her community on the Crow Reservation in Montana. The play of structure and softness of the reservation homes built by the government, lived in by generations, are placed against a silk background, a material often associated with luxury, comfort, and care. At the core of Wendy Red Star's practice is an intentional and deeply caring effort to humanize her community, her people, and particularly the Native people living in the United States, who are often misrepresented or overlooked in mainstream narratives. Through her lens, we are invited to experience the world as she does, not just as an artist, but as someone deeply connected to her tribe, her home, and her history. She does not present an abstracted or distant version of Native life. Instead, she places the everyday, her everyday, at the center of her work. Wendy Red Star reminds us that art is not just about what is depicted, but about how it is depicted, what it asks of us, what it reveals, and how it reshapes our understanding of the lives and histories it represents. In this artwork, I have an untitled photograph, a captured moment of a house interior in the Dominican Republic. Written on the back is, "To Mom from Florence, Mi Casa Bohemia, October 14th, 1952. These words ground the photograph in both time and intention, revealing a layer of personal connection beyond the frame. With 8 images in total, what fascinates me about these photographs is how they function as an early version of something we take for granted, a kind of FaceTime before technology allowed for instant visual communication. Before video calls, before the ability to instantly share our environments with loved ones from a distance, Florence documented and described the space and with the message of, this is where I am, this is what I see, this is what I want you to know about my world. I find myself drawn to that pride. The way Florence carefully composes the images, giving attention to the materiality that define the space and the way that the life unfolds within it. There's a deliberate act of sharing here, not just of a place, but the life lived within it. Daniela Rosell, a Mexican woman photographer, captures Itati crying in her living room. This is a meditation on the raw, unfiltered moments that unfold in the privacy of familiar spaces. This photograph captures an intimate, emotional release in a setting meant for comfort. Daniela, as a photographer and storyteller, constructs a moment we rarely see documented. How often do we come across photographs of people crying in their own homes? Not as a performance, not for spectacle, but simply as a reflection of lived experience. We don't instinctively reach for a camera when someone is crying. If anything, we turn away. We give them privacy. We let the moment exist unrecorded. And yet, Daniela chose to bring this focus to a scene that is often hidden. This decision is powerful, and it forces us as viewers to sit with this moment, to witness it without context, without explanation. And in doing so, it again is universal. No matter the cause of the tears, we know this feeling. We have all cried in the safety of our own space, in a room where we can feel we can let go. The living room, typically a place for gathering, for hosting, for warmth, suddenly transformed into a site of vulnerability. There is no audience, no performance, no expectation. It is the kind of crying that some might call an ugly cry. yet it comes and becomes something unexpectedly. Daniela Roselle does not just capture a scene, she captures the truth. To conclude, these photographs are in our collection, but we don't know who they are. What I enjoy most is that they depict people simply living, Black women living. They exist within real spaces, rooms with mirrors, chairs, lights, and all the intentionally arranged objects holding a place in their everyday lives. Nothing is without purpose. And in this way, the art of living extends into these photographs, reminding us that they were once real individuals, present in their time, allowing themselves to be documented, whether actively or passively. They invite us to connect and to recognize their existence in our own way. The images speak for themselves. These people were here, they loved, they lived. Through the power of photography, the lens of a once-known photographer and their subject, now they are here with us because of the preservation of a once-known keeper. In the endurance of time, they remain. Now they are part of our experience, forever living on through art. I'm now going to pass it for our first panelist, Sydney, to speak.
Hi, everyone. Hope everybody's doing well, and I just want to thank you all for being here. My name is Sydney Oriolua, and I will be discussing how art, reflection, and shared experiences basically foster well-being. And I wanted to start with my baby picture because one is very cute and it's funny to me. And I also think baby pictures have like this like symbolic meaning. Like it shows like where you were, like who you are, and it kind of shows like innocence in a sense. And also the way as this quote says, the beauty of photography, it starts a dialogue about who we are, where we come from, and where we're going. And to stay in that same notion about childhood and baby pictures, I had captured this image at Forest Park in 2023. And I really just liked it because it was a whole bunch of kids just playing around in this fountain. And they were just free. I think that was a really cool way to capture kids. And I also think they will probably remember this for a while because, I mean, this is not a pool, you know, it's a fountain. And I don't know, it just felt very free to me. I don't know. And I think it was just fun to see families in that light too. And kind of just fast forward a little bit about my experience. I took this picture also in 2023 in Memphis, Tennessee. And I really liked this image because it just made me think about beauty salons and like growing up, spending all day at the beauty salon, you know. Us women, we know how that is. But I also like the fact that this image, I mean, the beauty salon was also a house. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I feel like that is the very first time I actually experienced care and like conversation and community. That was like my early start of experiencing that at a young age. And it was really nice because I got to experience that over different generations. Everybody's getting their hair done. So yeah, I really like that image. This image here was actually taken in Paris, also in 2023. And I really just want to focus more on the image on the right of those two individuals. I really like that image because they seem so like present with one another. I don't know if they were a couple or if they were friends or not, I just loved how they were forming their own sense of community with one another while they were waiting for their food. And I kind of was people watching that day a lot. So I don't know, it was just nice to see. And I took this image actually just a couple of weeks ago with my friends. We were actually celebrating Kokub's the last day in her apartment. Kokub is the one in the white that's standing up. And it just showed me that you don't have to do this grand, big thing to be in community. You guys can just come together and be together, eat, laugh, celebrate whatever you want to celebrate. And now I'm gonna like switch gears and talk mainly about Circa 1998 and what that means. Circa 1998 is one of a personal project for me. And it really got me out of this funk of, I don't know, just being, I don't know, I can't really describe the feeling I had before I actually did my exhibit, but it just got me out of a creative funk, I would say. That's like the best way to explain it. And it just felt like a gift to me. And I mean, it also was a gift as well, the camera. And the reason why I named it Circa 1998 is based off the camera that was used. It was manufactured in September 1998, which I thought was very ironic that I also am born in September. I wasn't born in 1998 though. I'm not that young, but the camera was manufactured in 1998, and it just made sense to move forward with that project. And here is a paragraph out of my exhibition statement. I won't read this entire paragraph, but I just wanted to highlight the very first sentence, where I really did want to create a space where people that was coming to the exhibit could reflect on their own joys of nostalgia and consider nostalgia as a healing and a comfort space. And also bridging spaces between the past and the present. And these next couple of slides, I'm gonna mainly focus on or highlight 3 images that I really loved from my show. So this here is just a small snippet of what the exhibition looked like. This is just one little part of it. And I really want to highlight my childhood in a sense. So the TV there is actually from my childhood room at my parents' house. And I played Super Nintendo a lot. And I really wanted people to come into the space and be able to play that game and also just connect with other people. While also just experiencing whatever nostalgic moments they had during that time too. This next image is called Nostalgia Joy. And I really like this image because I remember like playing around, going to Jamestown Mall. Jamestown Mall was in North County. It's no longer here with us, unfortunately. I miss them all a lot. But I remember just like grabbing like gumball machines, running around. My lips is either purple, blue, whatever color gum I had. It just made me think about that a lot. And also it was just a nice touch to have the smiley face in the background. This was actually taken 2024 off of Kings Highway. This next image, it's untitled right now. I can't think of a good title, but this was taken in Brooklyn, New York, and I felt like I was in the right place at the right time because I was looking to find, when I was building this show, I was trying to find kids riding bikes, and I don't know what it was. I could not find kids riding bikes at the time. I just felt like kids wasn't outside, and that kind of made me sad a little bit, but when I was in New York, it was really nice to see like a whole bunch of boys in the middle of the street just riding bikes. They was taking up space. They felt very free. And the guy in the back, he's like popping this wheelie, which I really enjoyed. I don't know, like I just love seeing Black people in a very free state. So I was happy that I actually got a good image out of that role. And this last image that I'm gonna highlight from the show, this was actually taken in New Orleans. I was on a trip with my best friend. She's also in the crowd. She's recording me right now. I really love this image because it was taken on Juneteenth last summer. And when I think of Cadillacs, I automatically think of the Art of Living, only because Cadillacs has this really like symbolic meaning to Black people and Black culture. When I think of that, it's just, I think of how the way like that was like Black people showing up, and also showing our history. Yeah, I really enjoyed that moment a lot. And the next part I'm going to also start focusing on is the events that took place during Circa 1998. It was really imperative that I was able to highlight all the things that helped me prepare for the show. So I'm a really big yogi. I've been practicing yoga since I was about 18. I'm 29 now. And I knew I wanted to bring in the community that way as well. So I hosted a yoga class where I just want us to feel like free and express ourselves through movement. And that was another way to bring community together. It was a donation-based class, and we just got to move very slow. I know this video is showing us moving very fast. I promise that was not happening. And it was just nice because some people that couldn't make it to the opening came to the yoga class, and they got to experience Circa 1998 in a different light, while also still connecting with community. And a lot of times, a lot of my experience actually can't really exist without community. So it was really imperative to showcase or bring the community into my work as well. And the last part I want to touch on about Circa 1998 was for my closing, I did a dinner party. And it was also, ironically enough, on Nigeria's Independence Day. And I just wanted people to get to know me through food because I'm very used to like connecting with people over food and like over a meal. And I feel like I've built a lot of bonds that way too. And honestly, who doesn't love food? You know, I mean, everybody loves food. So it was really nice. This image here, I just had a plate of fried chicken and then plantains and then puff puff, which is basically fried dough, and then jollof rice. So it was a very intimate setting, and here's just a quick video of the dinner party and who showed up. The way I kind of staggered the tables, I knew I wanted everybody to be able to connect and see each other from any angle of the table. So that's why I kind of opted for more circle tables versus like a long, like rectangle table. And I think it was just really nice because even people that couldn't make it to the yoga class or the opening, they got to meet new people, experience Nigerian food for the first time, and just connect and like talk about their stories and whatever they really wanted to talk about. I love that it was a safe space for everybody that showed up. And I also just want to touch on music for a quick moment too. I couldn't think of a creative way to kind of bring in music into my presentation. Music played a really big role while preparing for the show because I think music has a way of like nourishing your soul as well. And so this is a curated playlist that was played while I was creating for the show. Even when I was just like going through it, like I was either doubting myself or just having a hard time. But it's a very slow and like sonic, I would say like sonic and soulful type of playlist that was also played at the opening, the yoga class, and the dinner party. So I just want to share this here in case anybody wanted to listen to the playlist or add it to their library. So it's also available on Apple Music and Spotify. And thank you so much for listening.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Maggie, for putting this incredible conversation together. Thank you to the panelists, Sydney and Glenisha. I'm honored to be sitting next to you and sharing my work. Sydney, that was beautiful. I'm Christine Espinal, and I'm a spatial designer. And I'm going to walk you through a bit of my work and talk about what spatial design is, share some of my projects, and kind of talk a little bit about what's coming next. So spatial design is a fairly new term because it crosses the worlds of architecture, interior design, landscape design, furniture, to create a holistic space. So imagine thinking about how you want to feel when you walk into a room and using all of those techniques from all of those different practices and bringing it to life. So my background started in 2013 at the Art Institute of Philadelphia. So their curriculum was super old school, so everything was done by hand, from floor plans to drawing, sketching, and those tools really are like the building blocks of like how I design today. And from that education, I took it to the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York, and I discovered their program called Spatial Design. And it was really interesting because I went from designing homes and offices to museum exhibitions, retail spaces, and I really loved just reaching a wider audience of space. And there at FIT, I learned a lot about technical design. So all those hand drafting that I was doing, I brought it to the computer. And I took courses on graphic design as well and how that ties into a space, signage and logo design and, just designing the entire space. And I also took woodworking classes where I took those ideas and actually physically built them and made these spaces tangible. So I really had like the full idea from idea to execution, and yeah, that's what I'm doing that now. So a little about me. I was born and raised in New York. I was born in Washington Heights, and both of my parents immigrated to New York from the Dominican Republic. My grandmother immigrated before them, and like in the early 60s, and she worked really hard, and she started her first salon business in Washington Heights, and adjacent to it, she actually opened a vintage furniture store. And that's a photo of me sitting in that very furniture store. So my family and my parents were definitely a huge influence on how I wanted to create home and how I wanted to share space. So this is a photo of my apartment in Los Angeles currently. And I think it really encapsulates how, like, my approach to a space. So I like a space to be flexible, so I approach it in a minimal way where I'm just providing what's necessary and kind of letting the life be what it wants to be. You can just walk into the room and just be yourself and apply to it, and it'll flex around how you want that space to work for you. I really appreciate emptiness, and I think it just brings a certain calmness and just allows you to change your mind and grow and just move things around and play. This particular room I call my game room or my playroom, where this empty space in the middle becomes so many different things. I can like play a board game, play chess, I'm really into that, and even exercise and move. And that blank wall on the left, I project movies, and it's just a cool and below is the media console, so I have like my vinyl records there. So it's a cool space of interaction, and even hosting there is a really beautiful space. Even eat on the floor, like it's just a cool, flexible space. So this really shares one of my favorite spaces. And I also want to talk about my digital process. So on a day-to-day, this is kind of what my computer screen is looking like. Working on multiple projects at once. SketchUp is one of the programs I learned at FIT, and I'll kind of have an idea for a space and model it there. On the bottom right, I have Adobe InDesign, which is like a multi-page document software, which is actually where I put this presentation together. Yeah, and I just want to show I'm like working on multiple things at once, and music is also an incredible part of my process, so I got Spotify open there. And again, like working with my hands is my favorite part of the process. So sketching, like physically building pieces. I'm going to talk a little bit about the piece I'm making in the middle, and physically sculpting with my hands. Yeah, this is like my favorite part of the process. And from here, I'm going to talk a little bit about my work, so I'll share some of my favorite projects. So this piece is the Mesa Tres. It's my very first piece of furniture I ever made. I built it in my woodshop class at FIT, and it's called the Mesa Tres because it functions in 3 different ways. So it works as a side table as it's standing here. As you rotate it on its side, the slots, you can actually fit vinyl records or magazines, and with a piece of glass on top, it works as a coffee table. So I think it's really cool to have a singular piece kind of move and work with, however you want the space to operate for you. And this piece actually led me to the next big step of my design career. It led me to this cool shop in Brooklyn called Lichen. and it's a furniture design studio. So I walked there in 2017, and I met Ed B. and Jared Blake. They're two awesome founders, and they had this little vintage furniture shop, and they were looking to like expand and start designing their own pieces. And they wanted to create a team of designers to make fresh and new designs to complement their vintage furniture. So I joined the team, and it was so much fun. The first design I did was the Mesa Tres. I was producing that. And Lichen is a really cool space because during the week, like Monday to Friday, we're just designing and building and conceptualizing these pieces. And then Saturday, Sunday, we're open as a shop and we're selling those pieces. And the space is flexible because we also do workshops there. We do talks like this one. We also have music events. It's just such a cool, flexible space and such an important part of the design community for me in New York. So if you're ever in New York, please go visit Lichen. This was my first original design with them. This was made for the Brooklyn Museum gift shop. And I designed this form to hold 6 bottles. And the original design was actually like a big, solid chunk of wood. It was super heavy, super expensive to make, and this was a learning piece for me for sure. So this is the final redesign where I pared down the weight with dowels, and I learned about, you know, the cost of shipping items. Shipping furniture is crazy, guys. So yeah, this was a first for me with Lichen, and super proud of this one to have it in the Brooklyn Museum. And another piece that made it to the Brooklyn Museum is the City Mirror series. So a big part of Lichen and their approach is making design accessible. So we worked a lot with plywood, which this mirror is made of. And as I'm working with this plywood, I'm noticing like these patches in the wood. You can see it on the right side here. And it was just really interesting how it's almost like hiding the imperfection of the wood. And I thought that was like a really interesting play on the mirror. So that's kind of where this motif came from, and I played with it. It kind of relates also to the shape of the Mesa Tres. So I have like these organic forms that translate in through all of my work. And this project is separate of Lichen, but I want to show the multifunction in this one as well. This was designed for Melanie Sanchez. I worked alongside with her designing her office, and she was in need of storage for her flat files and photos. And she has an incredible collection of vintage ephemera, and we used these really cool flat file day beds, and we also needed seating in this space, so we created this beautiful butter leather cushion to sit on top with these cashmere pillows, and it was just a really cool way to bring soft and hard together, and like, yeah, it's an awesome piece to sit on. And also with Melanie Sanchez, she does an incredible job of doing this event called Aquí Me Quedo, which is for the Puerto Rican Day Parade. And she had this really cool photo gallery and asked me to create seating for that. And I thought dominoes was such an incredible part of Dominican and Puerto Rican culture. So I designed these benches in the shape of that and elongated it. And yeah, they worked really cool for the event itself, but they also serve another purpose. If you stack them on top of one another, they also become a bookcase. So I think with this kind of shows like in each design, I'm thinking about the different lives that the piece itself will live. And this one here, I just wanted to show, I mentioned graphic design earlier, so I did a logo for this space. These two bartenders were looking to open their very first like listening lounge, and they asked me to do the entire design. So I did the logo here, NSO, and then I played off of that O in this space and kind of created a threshold and division between the entry and the space, which is a really cool sight line. I have this actual project on my website if you want to check out a little bit more on it, so you can see the different angles. But I kind of thought about this space, the whole thing. And what's next? So currently I'm in Los Angeles, and I'm looking to start my own design firm. I'm manifesting it right now with all of you. And yeah, I want to continue to share more space and tap into nostalgia, tap into our inner child and our environments. I think, yeah, that's what I want to share, space and share love. Thank you.
Hi, y'all. All right, I'm Glenisha. Thanks for being here with me today. And thinking about the spirit of care, living, I wanted to kind of ground my talk in gratitude today. I feel like my position of being here today is a God-given gift. A friend of mine, 3 years ago, Jada Patterson, participated on this panel, and I remember specifically listening to her artist statement, editing it with her. And so I think it's a full circle that I'm here. And I also want to express my gratitude to Maggie, my friend, for also extending space. When I think about the art of living, for me, it's wrapped around these kind of memories, specifically dealing with home. These are 3 images of the women who really got me to who I am today, and specifically developing a language of art and within my practice for myself. This is my grandma, Lily Ruth McKenzie. This is my mother, Daria Danae McKenzie. And this is my great-grandmother. And all of these images you can see are kind of surrounded in these kind of histories and memories of the Black interior. They're all surrounded in this kind of space to rest, a seat, lighting, plants. And these sentiments have really always carried me and grounded me in my own sentiments and thinking about home and living and using that as a language within my artistic process. So simply put, I identify as an artist, an educator, a community caretaker, and more expansively, I identify as a seer and a seeker, a collaborator and a conspirator, a mother, or excuse me, a sister and a daughter, and really somebody who thinks about my art practice as a way of living. So my art practice is most of the time built around these spaces and recreating home for myself from spaces that I've called home, but also thinking about like my place as myself and putting my own identities in these spaces from a sense of memory. Today, I'm going to talk mostly about an installation titled Bosom that I did in 2019. And for me, this was a work that really was integral to the artist I am today, and really gave me the freedom and language to navigate as an interdisciplinary artist. Bosom was a show that I put together in Kansas City, Missouri at a space called Hall Contemporary Crossroads. As I was getting to this show, it didn't look like this for me. It wasn't a space. It was going to be mostly works on the wall. And at some point, I just got like a message, and an intuitive message from Spirit of just like, this space needs to be a home. And so Bosom, I ended up creating a home in this white wall gallery space, bringing in recycled wallpaper, thrifted, found, gathered, and gifted furniture, decorative items, artifacts. And I created a bedroom, a living room, a reading space, and this kind of like lobby area, I would say. And this space was kind of like this first example for me of collage coming off the canvas or coming off like the paper. For me, collage is really like this language that I enter the Black interior space. So in the way that Black history is kind of changed with new generations, and constantly influenced by the past and the present, I'm thinking about physically taking on that language with the materials I'm using. And so how can I cut up and collage with like atmosphere, light, and space, and really kind of create these environments that feel like collages in a very physical way. In these spaces, I also put a lot of matrilineal objects. And so these are objects that have been passed down to me from my mother, from my grandmother. That table that you saw in the dining room space, that was a table that I grew up having Sunday meals at. And so for me, it's important to insert this sense of specificity in the interior for me because, you know, we have similarities within the Black interior, but we have specificities related to our own experiences. And so for me, the Black interior is specific through color and smell and touch, and recreating that through specific items that have this place in my family. Within this show, one of the things that I was really attracted to, though, and kind of like opened up a lot of doors for me, was just really looking at how people navigated the space and how it really turned the spaces themselves into kind of these living environments when people were in the spaces. And it was no longer like this kind of experience of like seeing art as like an outsider or a spectator, but the show felt like communal. It felt like a reunion. It felt very like collaborative, and it felt like home. And so these are some images of my friends, families, loved ones occupying that space. And it was also important for me to like have this visualization of what this space looked like from the outside. And so this is the outside view of that exhibition. And on the regular, you know, when you pass this space, this is just like a white wall gallery with works on the wall. But for me, it was important to think about what does it mean to like walk by this space and see a space that Black people could feel familiar with and could see themselves in. And so it was no longer about like the capitalism of purchasing work. And thinking specifically about that because I did this show with a gallery that I was represented by. And so like that was the expectation, of course, from my gallery. But for myself, I was really like kind of subverting and criticizing like that kind of language of entering this space with those expectations. And this work really was expansive for me because it really helped me name myself as an interdisciplinary artist. And so this work turned into photographs, and the photographs inspired other works. This was like a project that I did on like an outdoor window display exhibition. And then it kind of allowed me this freedom to like move through my work as like a living organism within itself that has like this past, present, and future. And so a lot of times when you go through my work, you'll see like symbols or images that repeat themselves. And these are kind of like my archives or like my arsenal that I've been working with for like the last 10 years. And so I kind of just give myself the permission to move through those symbols as I please, and as they want me to. I wanted to talk shortly about an exhibition that I did in 2021 titled Watering Place. This exhibition for me was really integral when thinking about the art of living from a space of communal care. And so this was, you know, post-summer 2020 Black Lives Movement, as well as like the COVID pandemic. And I think in 2021, we were really like collectively in a space of seeking community and thinking about how we could be intentional to do that in a safe way. And so when I got invited to do this show at the Crossroads Hotel in Kansas City, I really opened this space up to a collaborative exhibition. And so this was a show that I curated in tandem with myself as an artist, but also it was 7 other artists that were Black and brown films who participated in this show. And so this is a combination of all of our works together. During this time, I also was going through a spiritual awakening and kind of really finding these new modalities for myself that was centered around healing through spirituality, through nature, through the land. And I was making these botanical inks, teaching myself how to make botanical inks using foraged materials. And so in the backdrops, you'll see these inks that I made out of hibiscus, goldenrod, black walnut, and thinking about kind of how these traditions or modalities, thinking about healing from a Black and indigenous standpoint, have always surrounded us. And we've always had these kind of techniques of healing when it comes to nature that surrounds us. But how with just generation and colonialism, we've had to teach ourselves that. And 2 of the artists in the work made these beautiful hangings that were hand dyed with avocado, and also beaded with an indigenous beading technique and shells. The space also included live plants in a small garden space. And so that was Water in Place. As an extension of my spirituality, I wanted to talk about an exhibition that was integral for me in 2022 titled Pack Lights. And so with this show, I ended up kind of making this altar space in the gallery that framed these 2 works. And the altars were filled with these jars filled with spiritual things. Some were dried plants, dried materials. Some were spiritual candles. I included cards that my brother sent me from prison. I included hair weave. Kind of all of these materials that I had been working with in the last few years, really in a very private way, to find healing for myself. And so this show, Pack Light, was kind of an extension of letting go of a lot during this time, but also being intentional and showing how I was finding that language for myself. And so you can see, in my installations, I'm very much interested in kind of coming into these spaces and changing what they feel like, what they look like, and who feels comfortable in those spaces. And so for me, that happens through this stark translation of colors or items that are specific to me and my family's history and lineage. I wanted to end with She Who Comes With Her Own Things 2025. This is a show that I did at the Tarbell Art Center that closed just a few months ago. And so speaking from Bosom 2019, this is what the Black interior has kind of translated or expanded to now for myself and my practice. When I made Bosom in 2019, I had a lot of insecurities in making a space that was not centering fine arts. I have a fine arts background, a bachelor's of fine arts, and I had just graduated, and so it meant a lot for me to be okay, I'm gonna collect these items, this furniture, and make this space. Now I think in 2025, a lot of artists are using these same languages and kind of inserting the interior in our exhibition spaces. But I started this work when it wasn't popular, and so for me, I'm kind of in a space now of challenging myself of like, how can I still think about these same languages of the Black interior, but not necessarily have to lean on creating a space. And so this is a show that I did really in collaboration with the Tarbell. I used 12 items from their permanent collection and paired them with 12 items from my family's artifact collection, and put them in this arrangement. Also reading Fred Wilson a lot, minding the museum, but thinking about how care as an artist can extend to the collections of the art spaces that we're in, and really just like looking at that as an opportunity to expand my practice of how I can show up as an artist in the space. And so Tarbell Museum is in EIU. It's at EIU in Charleston, Illinois. And so this is like a very white space, and just viewing people walk through this space, it made people uncomfortable. Some of the works include kind of like Klan photographs. Some of the works include like traditional artifacts from this city, from that city. But I was really just kind of interested in how to create this space of speaking about the Black interior within like my same languages, and how the objects in that personal collection of the Tarbell could extend with those same languages. Thank you.
All right, let's give another round of applause to all of our panelists and artists. Thank you each for sharing so beautifully your practice and how important it is to you. And I think it allows for everyone else to experience this today and who will hear the value and intention in your work. So on the screen, I have a QR code for you all to scan to complete a survey, to complete a quick 1 to 2 minute survey to tell us how you felt about today, what brought you here, and in connection to that, if you got a raffle ticket, there's a place to put your raffle ticket number in, and you could be entered in to win a 1-year membership. So I would do that. And this is leading us now into our Q&A time. So we have mics that will, at the front, that will travel through. So if you have a question, please raise your hand, and they will come to you. Okay, we're getting this together.
I don't know if this is on. Can't really hear it much.
Hello, is it? Okay, I can project. Hi, thank you so much, Sydney, Christine, and Glanisha, and Maggie for putting this together. My name is Jordan. I do know some of you on stage, and this is more of a personal question as someone who is also a community caretaker and a seer. I'm just really interested to see what you all see for yourselves in your future without limits, without boundaries. What would that look like? So yeah.
Hi, Jordan. Thanks for the question. It's a little bit all over the place. I see myself like opening up, I love matcha and teas, so I would love to actually open up a coffee shop that's a plant shop, but it's also a art space as well. I don't know what that would look like, but that's something I want to do when I'm a little older.
I think I spoke a little bit about it, but creating my own design studio is something I would love to do. But I could see it growing into a physical space and just creating a space where people can come and visit and interact and learn about space. I mean, Lichen exists in New York, but I'd like to continue to share that feeling and share it with the world.
Thank you for your question. I would like to have a nonprofit art space for Strange Fruit Films. Strange Fruit Films is kind of like the umbrella of what I do my community organizing work under. And we kind of operate like a satellite organization, creating like art spaces for youth and adults centered around healing. And so I see like that creating and turning into an art space, but a space that also like lives beyond me. Like I want to see other directors, and I'm just kind of in a space right now of like asking myself, like, is the name still Strange Fruit Films? You know, like, what is like that collective art space look like, and what does the new language look like for it too?
Hi, good morning. Hello? Okay. Hi, good morning. Thank you all for speaking, first of all. I have a question for Glenisha. That pack light exhibit was beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you.
How did you get the walls like that? Those green walls with the, was that paint or?
Yeah, so in that space, also in She Who Comes With Her Own Things, I use water-soluble graphite that I paint on the walls with, and essentially kind of like do murals related to like some of those same images or like memories and symbols that you see. And so it's just like a powder graphite that I add water to.
Hi, thank you all once again. Oh, I was not used to it to be on. So some of you touched on this a little bit, but as you were working, you touched on like music that was impacting your practice. But like, if you had to pick like an artist or like an author or both that really impacted your practice as you've been moving forward, who would it be?
The author Elizabeth Alexander and the book The Black Interior. Period.
I would say, for a musical artist, I would say Tems, only because I relate to a lot of her projects on a personal level. And then for an author, I would say as of recently, Black Market Vintage. Yeah, I would say those two. As Black Market Vintage is a book, but yeah.
As an artist, I really admire what she's doing is Solange. I know Maggie also shares that same sentiment, but her connection of music and space and seeing her open a physical design space that's gathering community is just incredible. Always inspired by her.
You should answer too, Maggie.
Because we've been holding space for you all as artists. I'm taken aback by that. I definitely feel as though artists that I value, echoing Christine, as an aspiring curator, as someone who does not define herself as an artist in just one way. I'm truly inspired by how there are no bounds to the spaces that she recreates home and allows people to feel home through her work. So, yeah.
Yeah, so excellent work from you all. You all are amazing artists. Just one quick question. How did you know as a child or in your upbringing that you were drawn to art?
I can go. I've actually always known how to draw. I feel like as soon as I picked up a pencil, I knew how to draw, quite honestly. And I'm not saying that in like a boastful way, but it was just like, even when my big brother, his name is Michael, he went to Kirby. That's the middle school, but it used to be, well, I think it's called East Middle, I think. I can't remember the name of the school, but, okay, East Middle, okay. I remember at the time, like me and my parents and Michael, we were all living in Countryside, which that is also not called Countryside anymore. It was an apartment building on Bell Fountain. And I remember like him coming back home with this like artwork, and I was like, this looks bad. Let me just help you. So I feel like that is my earliest memory of me like, oh yeah, I really like art. But no, it was not good. He did not color in the lines. I was taken aback. I was like, what is this? But yeah, that's to answer your question.
That's so funny. I would say as a child, I guess through play, I really loved Barbies, but not just the dolls themselves, like creating their spaces, so like a dollhouse, but I'd kind of just improvise from whatever I had around the house and like build their little crib. And then once I got in touch with technology and computers, Sims was a huge outlet for me because they have this, like where you know, build mode where you're, you know, creating the space, and that was like my first introduction into like, oh, I could do this for a living and, you know, create homes, and yeah, that was my intro to design.
I've always been a crafter. Like, I was that kid who wanted like the $5, $10 sets from Family Dollar, had beads everywhere, glitter all on the floor, making my own bracelets and things. And so I've always been like attracted to making items in that way. And then I had a teacher who was like really integral to my practice. Shout out Mr. Hunter. And in second grade, I was like staying after school making like charcoal portraits and really just kind of, he just like really fed into me. And I started building my portfolio really unknowingly with him.
Good afternoon, ladies. Oh, that's loud. My bad. Just starting off, I love that all of y'all are rooted in like community work or just have a sense of community about you. And this is for Maggie too. But I want y'all to tell me somebody right now in y'all community who really inspires y'all. Because even Maggie as a moderator is telling about how she's inspired by these certain artworks. But it's like from documentarian to interior designer to interior, you know, space creator. I feel like all y'all have a different niche about y'all, and I feel like, you know, that doesn't come from one person, so yeah.
Okay, thank you for that question. I would have to say it would be my family who were in the community in different ways. One being my dad, who is not only an educator in many spaces, but he also has taken on the role of a coach yet again and has been a coach for majority of his adulthood. It would secondly be my aunt, Erica Hill, who has her own studio, Point of Surrender Dance Studio, and offers dance under prophetic ministry in North County, which is a really big deal to me, where these girls are competing, but they're also in the foundations. And I mean, it's kids and boys and adults, so all people are welcome. And she is opening up her space for people to come in our community and learn the foundations of dance, and also go out and perform in different spaces that the both of them come to mind now, but my entire family, they're all involved in the community in different ways, and that is who keeps me inspired and continuing to go, because they always are expanding and giving back in ways that I just truly admire.
I would say who inspires me is actually Glanisha. I don't think I've actually, no, because honestly, I was like going through a phase for a very long time where I knew what I wanted to create, but I didn't know what that really looked like. And I was like, does this even make sense? Like, I think I needed to see it done before, in a sense. And so when I saw that you were also doing work similar to another artist that I really love, she's not in St. Louis, her name is Uzo Nujoku. And she was basically turning a lot of different spaces, like commercial spaces, into homes. Like she had an art exhibit that was called Apartment 27, where she did something similar to like what you've been always doing. So when I came across your work, I was like, yes, that's it. So yeah.
For me, I did mention them in my presentation, but Ed B. and Jared Blake, who founded Lycan, those are like my pillars. And yeah, I really just want to carry their message and add my take on it as well. Yeah, it's a really cool space. I highly encourage you guys to check it out.
I am not native to St. Louis. I've been here 2 years. So, in wanting to answer that question and thinking about my new community, who comes to me first is Chris. I don't know his last name, but Chris from Park, the new Park / all the different names. But I have had the pleasure to like host a community event space, his space, at Profile Reserve, and also just like be in conversation with him and I like really just feel like we have a lot of like similarities as kind of like a transplant in St. Louis who like kind of wants to come here and start these kind of community spaces and community oriented projects. But also just thinking about like our personalities and individuals as who we are. I don't know her personally and haven't had the pleasure to meet her, but Imani from Know How Bookshop, is that what it was called? Noir Bookshop. I'm thinking of a different bookshop. But before I moved to St. Louis, that was just like an account and business that I followed, and I love kind of just like how unapologetically like Black and feminine her work is as a community organizer, and yeah.
So thank you all for your time. Thank you, Maggie, Sydney, Christine, and Glenisha. This has been a wonderful conversation. So my question's for all of you. Can you speak more directly to your thoughts and philosophies to the aesthetics of beauty and its relationship to interior spaces that create peace and respite and rest? Because that was a thread I saw through all of your work. So just like the underpinnings of that, I guess.
I can start. So aesthetic. I would tap in, like personally, I tap into nostalgia. In Dominican Republic, I would visit my grandmother there every summer, and just the culture, the feel, the tropics, like the colors, all of that like heavily influenced how I see beauty, and I carry that into my work. Yeah, through color, through material. Yeah, that's my big inspiration.
I would say, in terms of beauty, I would say like it kind of depends on how I feel in that moment. I think I associate beauty to how I'm feeling and emotions, and experiences too. Like if I felt like, oh my God, like this feels like a big hug, that feels like beauty to me, because it's love. Yeah, that's what I have.
That's a good and hard question. Similar to you, I think about beauty kind of through specificity of experience. And so like when I was talking earlier about like how like my Black palette is a specific color scheme, that's like a way that I'm entering the, like beauty and aesthetic in the sense of just like these are the most beautiful colors to me. When I walk through the world, these are the colors that speak to me. And I think that, so yeah, I guess I think about beauty through safety, if that makes sense. If it feels safe, it most of the time feels like beautiful. But sometimes I done made some stuff that don't feel safe and it was beautiful too. Yeah.
I want to say thank you for all of you for your vulnerability and for the work that you all have contributed. And what comes to mind for me, for all of it, is home. just what feels like home to all of you all, the pictures and the spatial design that you all, that you have, Christine. And I love the pictures that you have, just everyone and their authenticity. And I wanted to just say again, I love the names of all of yours, and the Pack Light, just how we as people, and specifically as women, compartmentalize things. That's what came to mind for me with the jars and things, and so I can talk to you after about what was in all of those, because it was beautiful to me. But my baby, because that's my baby, we are so proud. You've done an exceptional job, and so I want to ask, what's been the best part of this, putting this together, because we've watched you labor over it, and so what's been the most impactful thing, memorable experience about all of this?
Thank you for that. I think the most perfect, exciting thing was the process as the Bearden Fellow to come in and know that this is a project that I had to do, but not really sure in the direction that I wanted it to go or what I wanted to highlight in our collection and artists I would ask. So I don't know if the process is appropriate to say, but I really enjoyed how it was always going to be the three of them. Like from the no's or I can't or just unsure, the process of getting to reach out to them, I had to inform myself of their different practices to, ask them to participate in this, because the work that they do, it brings about feelings that I have not felt in a long time through art. And so the fact that I was tasked with the responsibility of creating the space for you all to talk, I think that's the most exciting part. You three, the conversation, the meeting, the exploration through you all's different works and your mediums and your practices and growth as an artist that you can see just as an outsider, but now us being in conversation more and getting to talk to you all more and know you all more personally, that has been the most amazing thing, and forever excited to collaborate and create space for you all to share about your work. So it would have to be that. Yeah.
I just want to thank you four ladies for sharing your brilliance with all of us and for enlightening me today. I truly appreciate the time. I have an observation and a question, actually, and this is going to be directed towards Sydney. Sydney, I noticed twice during your presentation that you expressed a joy, or more appropriately a relief almost, associated with the concept of people and free. And, I was just wondering, is there more to that you can share? Because that relationship between liberation and the human spirit, it seemed to serve as, or emerged as a North Star for you. I just was wondering if there was more you could share related to that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for noticing and for the question. That has always inspired me. And I think it makes me very happy to see like Black people being themselves and just, I don't know, like not having a care in the world, not like recklessly or anything, but just not overthinking who they are, who they want to be around, what they're doing. I just think I struggled with that at some point, like even overthinking, like do I call myself an artist or do I say I'm just a creative? I feel like it took me a very long time to like actually introduce myself as an artist, and I feel like I just started doing that maybe about 2 years ago, even though I always knew I wanted to be an artist. So I also I love capturing Black people being free because it kind of reminds me that like I can be whoever I want to be in a sense. So thank you.
And we have time for one more question.
Oh, thank you. I want to jump on the gratitude train and say that thank the audience as well, because I think you can tell that a panel has been has connected when there are great questions, and this has been such a generative conversation. So I just want to say thank you to the panelists and everyone, and thank you to the audience for all of your questions as well. And then just maybe dive down a little further into that concept of authenticity and pour more thanks on to all of you sharing your authentic selves through your work. With Sydney, with like sharing your childhood memories in circa 1998, and Christina, like putting your actual home is like, I think sharing your personal space can be scary, but Glenisha, you also like put your own objects into Bosom, so you're all pouring yourselves into your work, and I think it can be scary, but I admire you all doing that here. And so finally, my question, do you have any advice for someone that's trying to develop their own personal space or method of communicating, which is kind of the same thing for all of you, it seems like?
As an artist?
Yes.
I would say start with what's surrounding you. This is advice that I give to my students often too. I think that if you are like an artist who wants to start with yourself, I think that's like a decision, that you don't have to make, but that you can make. But if you are an artist who wants to start with yourself, like it's really important to get specific about like what does, like your identity or the space that you're working from or the subject media, like what does it taste like? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? Like as specific and as deep as you can go, that's what I really like stress to my students in finding like your artistic voice. Because I think that like often we don't allow ourselves enough permission to go deep. And so, yeah, I say like go as deep and as specific as you can go.
That's beautifully said.
Thank you.
For me personally, my advice would be like tapping into your inner child. I feel like that's your most authentic you. I feel like, our voices were fully developed then, and like it's still part of us. And also, I encourage just play, like playing games, and I think that's our most like liberal state, and that's where we can really tap into our full like imagination.
I'm also going to say something very similar to the both of them, and I second both of what they said. Wow, I just lost my train of thought. Give me 1 second. Glenisha, you mentioned, okay, that's what you said. I have my train of thought again, I'm sorry. Okay, Glenisha mentioned just looking around what's around you, and I mean, I also second that, even with the people that surround you. And I also like encourage you to travel more, not necessarily getting on planes, but like simply taking a walk. You can find yourself within community, maybe a couple of steps right out of your doorstep, because that has happened to me like a lot. Just simply getting out, because that has always helped me. Like simply just traveling or taking walks or just meeting new people at like my neighborhood coffee shop, and talking more. Yeah, that's what I would say. Just find a ways to connect with other people.
But thank you all. Give yourselves a round of applause for joining us today. I am so thrilled that you all have been able to hear from these artists themselves and participate in the continuing art of living. I have the raffle winner, so everybody access your tickets. For the 1-year membership, I have raffle ticket 1302337. 1302337. Yes. So I will get your membership to you. Thank you all. And we will see you in the lobby. And appreciate you all for being here. Thank you.